This is Looks Good on Paper, a podcast from Willow about flipping the script on traditional hiring. I'm Ian Chohan, and every episode I put big voices in hiring and work culture through 3 quick-fire questions, speed dating style, to get the habits, trends, and ideas that matter. Welcome to this week's edition of the Looks Good on Paper podcast powered by Willow. We're back this week with Mike Bettley. He is the Senior Director of Talent at StackAdapt, which is a very big Canadian brand. And I've been fangirling over this brand for a really long time, just kind of been adjacent to it for a while as I've been in the tech space. He has over a decade of experience spanning Google, Thomson Reuters, and high-growth startups. He's also scaled teams from the ground up and built data-driven talent functions that actually work in practice. I'd love to hear more about you, Mike, and how you got here.
Thank you so much. Really glad to be here. Like everybody in recruitment totally fell into it. After university, I got a job at an agency and I had no idea what recruitment was or why it existed. Started in tech recruiting, very fortuitous turn. I got approached to move to Ireland and go work at Google. And being 20-something, I just packed up my car and said, I'm going to get on this ferry and go to Ireland and see what happens. And that turned out to be sort of a 4-year adventure at Google. Met my wife, who's Canadian, then moved to Canada. Yeah, so... there's always a reason for these things, and you just have to kind of follow the serendipity. Joined a couple of Canadian startups. I went progressively smaller, so I went from Google to a company called Flip. There was Series C, about 300 people, leading tech recruiting. Then went from there to 20 people at Open Care, which was sort of marketing for dentists. You probably all remember getting adverts if you're in the Toronto scene for here's some money, go to the dentist, you should do it. I scaled that from 20 people up to like 140. Then wanted to try something bigger again. Thomson Reuters, so about 25,000 people, and I did built their sourcing function. So going out and headhunting for talent.
Yeah.
StackAdapt reached out, and I was in my head, StackAdapt's like 100 people, and I was like, no, too small, I'm not doing that again. They were like, well, we're 800 people. And I went, okay. This is interesting. When did this happen? And so I joined in October 2023, about 800 people. We're now 1,650 globally.
Whoa.
I run a team of 25 on TA, covering, a huge amount of hiring across the entire business. And I think we finished up 2025 with about 650 hires across all functions in the business. So it's
oh my God, that's crazy. First of all, what a journey. And you've done so many different things. You've seen every single stage, it feels like, of the company. That's so exciting. I do remember Open Care. I actually have used it and I have gotten stuff from it. It was
the
awesome.
AirPods you're using today from Open Care,
exactly.
probably.
Actually, it was amazing. So you've gotten into a lot of places and really built it. You've grown a lot of the places that you've been in.
When you think about hiring is the most important and most expensive thing that you can do in growing a knowledge-based business. Most of the places I've worked have been technology companies, knowledge-based companies. And so the people that you're hiring are your biggest expense. And so for me, really being anchored to what's driving your business forward, not just like throw more headcount and hope for the best, but like really being intentional about if we strategically invest here, it's going to unlock this. What are the bets that you're going to put on? And that's to me is the bit that's really exciting. And I really try and think about like, what's the whole business, and thinking about if we make poor decisions on TA, it actually just compounds into employee relations issues for our people team. Like that's no good. If we're not retaining our high performers, like why are they not staying? What are the things that are not true for them? How do we change our TA practices to make sure that they reflect the realities of our company, not what we think we should be, if that makes sense. So
absolutely.
It's been a fun journey, but it's driven a lot by curiosity and wanting to really understand the businesses that I operate within.
I love it. I mean, I think that is probably what got you here today. But let's jump in. I have some really fun questions for you today. It's 3 questions, speed dating style. And the first one off the bat is, what's the biggest hiring mistake companies keep making, even though they know it's clearly not working?
I don't think we spend enough time really trying to understand the fundamental business problem that you're trying to solve when you're hiring. How I approach it is that hiring more people is a band-aid, right? If you have more people, you can do more things, but those are not necessarily the right things to do. And I really do believe that hiring someone is the intellectually laziest solution to the problem, right? It's easy to say, if I had more people, I could do more things. But we want to try and put some intentional friction into that process to make sure that you're really understanding what are you trying to solve.
Hmm.
How often do you just hear like we need more salespeople? Well, you don't need more salespeople. You need more revenue. The two things are not the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Salespeople can help you unlock revenue, but if your current sales force is spending 15% of their time doing ops and admin work and managing Salesforce, etc., actually hiring an ops person to take some of that workload off is going to get you more in terms of output and efficiency from your existing
Yeah.
sales team than adding one more headcount. But
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, if revenue is plateauing because you don't have enough leads, how is adding another salesperson to the team going to do that? Like, there's so many different solutions if you understand where the blocker is. And if you don't know what is driving your revenue and you don't know what's blocking it, you shouldn't be hiring. And
Absolutely.
I think it's adding more headcount. You're never really going to get challenged on it, right? It's very easy to just get
Agreed.
that passed by a CEO or a leadership team. You're going to drive your business much further if you really can say, this is the problem. This is what's blocking us. This is how we're going to solve it. These are the assumptions that we put into this. And this is how we've arrived at these numbers. Are we all on board with making this bet? And I think, I'm definitely not sat here saying that we've cracked it at StackAdapt by any means, but like that's the journey that we're on. It's like, how do we
Yeah.
keep pushing ourselves? How do we keep challenging ourselves to think more deeply about the problem? People are expanding companies massively and then having to shrink them because they're not solving the core problems that are stopping their business growing.
Yes. And we see that time and time again, right? We see these massive cycles, especially in tech, boom and bust, right? And then we're in that place right now. I saw a stat the other day. Applying for jobs is like throwing your resume into a black hole, first and foremost, and 0.4% of people even have a chance of getting their jobs. But I want to kind of just like rewind on something you said that I think is really important. Partnering with your CEO and understanding the business and understanding, what are your business goals?
Yeah. I mean, knowing what your business is trying to accomplish sounds really simple, but is actually really hard, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can't, as a company, you will never have the resources to pursue all of the opportunities ahead of you. You will always see more things that you could be doing, more opportunities. What are the
Mm-hmm.
things that are, and a good barometer here is using an 80-20 rule. Like 80% of your bets should be, if we execute well, this is the expected return. But you should also have 20% of those like moonshot bets of like, we're going to invest some resources in this. Not likely to work, but if it does, huge exponential gains for the business. And like being really clear about, is this a moonshot of like, we're going to hire some entrepreneurial person to drive this and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't? Or is this this has to execute, we have to get this right? And getting
Absolutely.
super clear on like what that is, because the people you need to hire for those different bets look totally different.
Mm-hmm.
People who are very good at optimizing and iterating and just like getting stuff moving are great for your 80% of bets. So like, again, knowing what the business is trying to accomplish will completely change how you think about the right people, the right hires to go into those different areas of the business.
Yeah. I think like just before we jump into the next question, it's like really interesting how much strategy is needed also to drive like, we're a startup now where we need to get eventually as a scale up, we'll need different people.
Yeah. And there's a really important point on that though, like, which is don't try and solve the problems that aren't in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That willingness to like go to the next level, to like, oh, when we're a scale up or when we hit 500 people, we'll need this. Well, you have to solve a lot of things and a lot of things have to fall your way to get to that point. And if that person can rise to the challenge, great. If they can't, you can swap out your talent. Like when
Figure it
not a
out when you
family,
get there.
we're a sports team. We'll trade with somebody else who needs that talent more than
Yeah.
us. Trying to hire too far ahead is, I think, a real problem because the people that have experienced that at those like later stages are generally not great at the super scrappy, like, oh, we don't have a policy. We don't know how to do this. We'll figure it out.
Absolutely. I love that. All right. Now on to question number 2. What's a hidden bias companies unknowingly have even when they think they are being progressive in their hiring?
Yeah, this one to me is still like company pedigree. Like it's still so ingrained, and I'll hold my hands up. Like I came to Canada and I shouted probably obnoxiously loud about how I worked at Google. So I apologize for all the people who met me earlier in my career because I name dropped it constantly. But like the people who work in those companies are generally not a great fit for the problems that your 100-person startup in Toronto has. And that's not saying that they're not great talent, but again, going back to what is the business problem you're trying to solve? It's unlikely that the problems that Google or Facebook are solving look anything like the problems that you're solving. Now, if they do,
Absolutely.
great, go after that talent, 100%. But most of the time, to my perspective, when hiring managers are relying on company pedigree, they're actually outsourcing the assessment of quality and talent to a third party. So why are you putting so much weight on the fact that this individual worked at
Signaling.
LinkedIn or Netflix? Like, great, they worked at those companies, but the challenges that those companies are taking on look fundamentally different to the challenges that you have to solve.
Yeah.
We'll see some things that maybe we're like, oh, this might be a little bit of a risk, but we outweigh it with, well, they worked at Google, they worked at Facebook, etc. And oftentimes that doesn't work out. And so the company pedigree piece, to me, needs to go away. And I think it's still intrinsically baked in that the engineers at Google and Facebook are amazing. And I think that was true from like the early days when they were breaking like Google search in the early 2000s. They were doing things that nobody had ever done before.
Yeah.
I think the only companies that are really going to get value from that are the AI companies right now. I mean, people who are building the fundamental models, like, you know, the Perplexities, the OpenAIs, they'll do a great job with those engineers. But the rest of us, like, probably don't need it. The last piece on this is like motivation, right? The reason that you're at a big company tends to be very different to the reason you go to a startup.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? And what happens when that Facebook engineer suddenly tells their parents they work at StackAdapt and their parents go, what is a StackAdapt? And they go, oh, like people know those brands. And if that motivation isn't aligned, the problems they're solving aren't aligned, and the experience doesn't align, how is that going to be a successful hire in your company? If we could just forget about what companies people worked at and focus more on like, have they solved similar business problems to what we need to solve?
Like
we see
skills-based
much better.
hiring.
Exactly, exactly.
We're a big proponent of that over here. We really think it's so important. I think like if we could just shift our thinking a little bit more to that, because it is a signal, right? We see somebody like, you know, wow, Google, oh my gosh, amazing. They must know everything. They worked for this like massive company, but it really doesn't mean anything. I feel like, you know, obviously, depending on the size of the company, to your point earlier, it will shape what you do in your jobs. But I've worked at so many early stage startups in Toronto, and now as a fractional CMO, I actually see a lot of companies, and they like, if they're hiring, if I'm mentoring a company, they're like, oh, wow, this person has come through, and wow, they're from this like massive company. I'm like, you're a 3-person team. Your product person is going to like, they're going to be doing everything. You can't just source them from somewhere. Like a massive company, they're not going to know how to build a strategy. They're not going to know how to build an ecosystem from the ground up. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
We outline the companies that I've worked for as a way to build credibility and like why you should listen to what I have to say.
That's
but,
true.
Like, just because I work at these companies doesn't mean that I'm right about any of this stuff, right? Like, it doesn't actually add any value. It's just I have these experiences. You should choose whether you want to believe what I have to say. Right?
That's true.
If you go, I think that Facebook engineers are the best engineers. Cool. That's like your opinion. I have a different opinion. It's totally fine. Like, I don't know if this is right, but this is what I'm doing and what makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And I think that these types of things are fine. They're signals, very similar to the CV, right? Like we think about the resume and why we use it to this day. And we know that it's not necessarily the best indicator of a good fit or a good hire, but we still use it. And this actually is a beautiful segue into the third question, which is if you were suddenly to remove CVs from your current hiring process, what would that look like?
Yeah. I think up until maybe a year ago, I actually don't think it was like feasible to remove CVs from the hiring process. Whereas now I think with the scaled AI solutions that you have, you could actually remove CVs and still like operate a system around hiring. Instead of submitting a CV, you could just submit like a general expression of interest and then get an AI voice interview for every single person who expressed interest. Rather than writing a generalized CV, it's a bit more like, tell me about your experience of, you know, defining marketing strategy, right? For a CMO role versus going, here is just a plethora of information that's been optimized by AI. So I think that you could do this for the first time ever, but it would shift the onus of the work back onto the applicant versus the company. Right. So if you remove the CV, then everybody then has to go through this. Like let's call it 10, 15 minutes with an AI chat person. Then you've got to do more interviews. You can use AI to take notes, etc. But you're still putting all that work onto the applicant versus like you taking some responsibility as a company. So how are you going to have like level that playing field? And I think that's really hard. I mean, if you really wanted to remove the resume, like the best way of doing that is just you shift the dynamic completely and just go like everyone does an internship for 3 months. We figure out if you can actually do this job. Right. And I don't think that's what we want to do. It would require a huge societal shift. Right. Do we really need to take 6 months to go through a performance improvement process? Or like, is this just a waste of time on both sides? So I think there's a bunch of different ways you can tackle this.
Yeah.
Is anyone ready to do it? No.
No.
I actually am not I'm not fundamentally opposed to the resume because I think your ability to articulate skill sets and your ability to like write effectively is actually an important skill set that is becoming increasingly eroded in the age of AI.
Absolutely.
Being able to convince someone of your point of view or clearly articulate what the impact you've had is a skill set in of itself. And it's one that we shouldn't let move away by virtue of just valuing people who can interview really well.
Agreed. And Mike, this is also, I'm agreeing with you because I did not share with you, am a politics major as well. So I see the value in this. I agree with you 100%.
It's got to be both. And it's not saying that like everyone has to be an incredible writer. Like, no, we should also be fair on candidates. But I do want to see like, do you know what's important to communicate? Are you just telling me the things that you did? Or are you saying, here's actually the impact that I had, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that was like the direction you wanted to go with CVs, but like, I think they're less valuable than they were previously because AI is optimizing them a ton. And I think we do need to put more
optimizing in like quotes.
Yeah, they all look the same now, which makes it much harder.
Yeah.
But I think that will create opportunities for people to be more unique. And I do think if you're job searching right now, like networking is more important than ever. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it's the reality of the situation. Like,
it is.
You have to be able to find a way to differentiate yourself versus everybody else that put their resume into ChatGPT and asked it to optimize it for this job.
Everyone, it's so true. And what we're seeing a lot too is like, so this podcast was born from a campaign around decentering the CV. And what we found was, you're right, like a lot of people aren't ready to, and they see the pros and cons, of course. Like, we know there's bias. We know it's not working. We know that there's an influx of AI that's just gumming up the entire system, but we've built our entire systems around this thing. So what is like kind of an in-between thing? And what we've been finding through like a lot of these conversations I've been having is that there's a commonality here where it's like, why don't we, and thinking about the candidate experience, why don't we allow candidates to kind of choose their own speed when it comes to how they interact? Like, if you want to do a video, Willow provides video, one-way interview. I think offering an opportunity for people to shine in the ways that are best for them is kind of where we're at right now with a lot of TAs that I'm speaking with.
Yeah, 100%. When I did my TA manager search, I got the managers to all submit a video, like 2 minutes on their phone, like no production quality, but just like talk me through how you think about TA. Because if we're fundamentally misaligned and you're like, we just do whatever the hiring managers want. Cool. Not going to be the person that like I want to work with or the organization I want to build. Yeah. And same around management. Like if it's, I just manage by numbers and I don't care about what people say, like I'm very data driven. I still care a lot about the team and I care a lot about the emotions that they're experiencing, but we also have to measure things. So like finding that balance. But you're right. Like every individual is going to show up in a different way that allows them to express their skill set the best. And I don't think the counter argument is like, you have to be able to do both.
It's true.
That's your job. Even if you write exceptionally well, like you still have to do that part of your job. And other people will be much better off the cuff, having a conversation and building a rapport that way. And somewhere in the middle is the right individual for you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good segue. We're talking about talent professionals. And, you mentioned earlier that, at any point, at some point, a TA professional might get fired. And we see that, we have those cycles of boom and bust. And I'd love to hear from you as someone who's kind of, worked with so many different teams and grown big teams. What are some skills that a talent professional will need in 2026 that you would think are really important right now?
So first, data and being able to actually understand what's happening. So being able to measure, understanding your pass-through rates, being able to tell the story, being able to talk with hiring managers who go, hey, we're losing 2/3 of our candidates at final stage interview. This is how many hours we invest in every single candidate for 2/3 to fail here. How do we move this interview and the things they're assessing up to the start so we're not over-investing time? That's being strategic, and that's really helping your business move forward. So I think data is a key one. The second one I would say is prompt engineering and being able to use AI really intelligently.
Interesting. Okay.
As LLMs came out, for me, I got really excited because it is just sourcing, right? It's how do you put yourself in the mindset of a different human being and write for it? So when you're prompt engineering, writing a prompt that really helps center the AI on what are you trying to accomplish? And so rather than getting the same sloppy, boring, AI-driven answers to everything, you're actually going to get something really targeted. So here's a fun one. I asked ChatGPT the other day to look at our CEO and write a piece of content in the style of our CEO. It was unerringly good, and some of the ways that he kind of communicates really came out. You have this ability to understand your business in a way that has never been possible before, right?
Yeah.
Any technology, any team, any function, you can just ask it to explain it like a 5-year-old and build your understanding so fast. No research
I think also
required.
as a talent professional, there's no excuse then, and in the nicest way, right? You have these tools to be able to actually understand the business, because I know some people will be like, well, I'm just not a business person, and I'm more a people person. That's why I'm in this role, right? But you actually can become that now with these tools, to your point.
100%. Being a people person is a cop-out answer, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
People only exist in the business because it adds value to the business. So if you don't understand what they're doing, you don't understand how they're adding value to the business, how can you set them up for success?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been really great. I love your spicy takes. It's awesome. Thank you so much again. Really excited to release this, but really excited to also continue to watch what StackAdapt is doing in Canada and the world. And everybody, thank you so much for listening to the first episode that's going to be released in the new year. We're doing this ahead of time. Have a happy new year, everyone that's listening, and onwards to your TA goals for 2026.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on Looks Good on Paper, powered by Willow. If today's 3-question sprint gave you something new to think about, hit subscribe and share with your network, because in hiring, and really in life, it's never just about what looks good on paper.